When seduction kind of bombed in Germany, I just was looking to New York as a way of breaking out of this um, gray country in those days. So I just went to New York City and became an illegal alien there. And so,
So you stayed over time?
well, if I would do this today, I'd be in a detention
Yeah,
center
I
right
guess so, yeah.
away.
Hello and welcome to the third episode of this podcast format, The Cultural Abyss. My name is Markus Stiglegger. I'm a film and cultural studies professor in Germany, and I founded this podcast to deal with the darkest aspects of the human culture. And dark is relative, as most of you know, and especially for this episode, I invited yet again a very good friend of mine for many years now. Um, she is a filmmaker, so there's a connection to our first episode about women in horror. But she doesn't make horror films. She made films that could be seen as the foundation of what we know as queer cinema today. And one of her classics, Seduction, the Cruel Woman, with Udo Kier and others, is worldwide recepted and became a cult classic till today. And so I will discuss with her her beginnings and especially the heritage of this film, The Cruel Woman, and how it came from her doctor's thesis of the same title about masochism in literature. And we will discuss all these things with a perspective on today's queer culture and queer subcultures. And I hope you enjoy this, and thank you again for supporting our first two episodes and getting back to me with some messages and positive and some critical remarks, which I really consider. And there will be changes in future for sure, a little bit here and there, but we will continue in this bi-monthly rhythm. And so the next episode is already in the works. But enjoy Monika Treut as my guest in this episode. So, welcome to this new episode of The Cultural Abyss. And for this episode, I have a very exciting guest, the German filmmaker Monika Treut. Hello, Monika.
Hi, Markus. Nice to be talking to you.
Yeah, again, because we just reflected on this, we had a lot of things in the past we did together, like book projects or film festival events, panel talks, and all kinds of things. And so it's very interesting that one of your first feature, in fact, your first feature film now has gained a new recognition at the Berlin Film Festival. And this is remarkable because, as you told in several texts in the past, that this film was not really well regarded when it came out. I'm talking about Seduction, the Cruel Woman, a film from 1985. So let's talk about you. How did it feel to get this Teddy Award at the Berlin Film Festival in connection with this film and some others, with looking back in the past?
It's actually really rewarding because when Seduction, the Cruel Woman, which was actually my first movie together with Elfie Mikesh, we wrote the script together and was co-directors. We were co-directors on this project. So when it first was shown in 85 at the Berlin Film Festival. It almost caused a riot. People walked out constantly. Other people were coming in. And the Q&A after the film was really aggressive. There was a lot of voices. They criticized, started from the aesthetics of the film. They were saying, oh, this is just like advertisement. This is, the other people were saying, this is way too cruel. This is really harking back to German fascism. So it was really an amazing array of different aggressive voices and very unfriendly. So this year, actually, the film was shown again at the Berlin Film Festival um, in context of the 40th birthday of the Teddy Award. And it was a totally different picture this time. It was a lot of young people in the audience, a very international crowd, and people seemed to be really enjoying the kind of playfulness of the film, which way back 40 years ago, nobody seemed to have noticed. They just took it at face value and were really shocked about the scenes of the dominatrix in her gallery. I guess in those 40 years, a lot of ways of how audiences regard movies has changed so much. And you were mentioning when we talked a little beforehand that this is also because the postmodern way of piecing together scenes and images has taken over, and the real what's shown as the background or what's harking back to certain signs when it was seen so many years ago has just stepped back into the background.
Hmm. Yeah, I can totally imagine because today, if you're told this is an adaptation of Venus in Furs, the novel by Leopold von Sacher-Masoch, it goes way beyond this for sure. And I would describe it actually as a playful modern reflection on the
Mhm.
nature of masochism, actually,
Mhm.
and female dominance. And it's actually cast with Udo Kier, who became a huge star, especially over his late life before he tragically died, much too early for sure. And I think this film can also be seen in this context, completely anew. What you mentioned is the tendency of different ideas of feminism in the 80s, if I understand this correctly, and one of those depicting all kinds of connection of sexuality and violence, domination, as kind of sexual fascism. Is that what you referred to?
Yeah, kind of. And of course, it really helped that people like actors like Udo and also the Mechtet Grossman, who
Yes.
plays the dominatrix, um, yeah, just have developed like a real stardom, and which also helped for people to get into the picture, just enjoying these two wonderful actors in their performances. So when way back when we shot Seduction, the Cruel Woman, Udo had some kind of yeah difficult period in his career, so he was almost forgotten in
Mhm.
especially in
Yeah, yeah,
Germany in those days.
true.
So this is also why we could afford to cast him, right? So.
Yeah, makes
Mm.
sense. Yeah. But
Mm.
I think that now, from seen from today's viewpoint, this film is very important in his career, but probably it wasn't foreseeable at that time.
Well, yeah, in a way, but it's the typical story of women filmmakers when Udo's the articles appeared about Udo's career. This film was hardly mentioned,
Oh,
right?
I
So,
see.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I for sure I didn't forget it. Um, I am well aware, because we have talked so many hours in our life or days, that you are not only caring about sexuality, body politics, and stuff like that. We talked about this, but there are a lot of other aspects in your career, in your films, and so on. But it is obvious that there are some persistent topics in your career which reoccur now and then. And two of them are starting with two films in 1983. It's with short, more experimental documentary films. Maybe you can give us an image what brought you to make the film Bondage at the same time as Unknown Gender. That was the start of your dealing with transsexuality and other definitions of gender identity. And Bondage was your film on BDSM techniques of, bondage techniques. Maybe because it's not the same situation as I imagine as in the 90s or today, where BDSM techniques are very mainstream.
Well, in those days, I guess I was kind of bored with sexual performances by my scene in Germany, like lesbian scenes, and also by the feminist situation in Germany, which was mainly really dominated by people like Alice Schwarzer. I don't know whether she is a worldwide known figure, but in Germany she was like Miss Feminism, and she had just started her campaign for no, like a real fight against pornography of all kinds. So just saying that pornography in all its different colors has the same problem, like making women submissive, like exploiting women not only as images but also in reality. So and then in those days in the United States, we had the first developments of different kinds of sexuality, which came out in the open. Pat Califia wrote a book about lesbian SM play. And so there was all these interesting elements coming out, but mostly in the US. So I was really smitten by this new way of opening boundaries for female sexuality and lesbian sexuality. And I went to New York and got into the world of lesbian SM. There was a group in Manhattan called Lesbian Sex Mafia, and I was just totally happy to visit them and to be inside the scene, and had lots of interesting experiences there, and then just decided to make a short film about this group, which is called Bondage, and showed then in different festivals in those days. And that was probably the background also for my interest in Zachar Mazur's novel, Venus in Furs. So it all came together, the academic way of getting to know the different female images in the works of Zachar Mazur, and then my private experiences in New York.
Mm-hmm. So it's not always about theoretically thinking about things and observing things, but also in a way participating and then gaining inspiration and working this into your art.
Absolutely. So for me, my personal life and my film work is inseparable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes absolute sense, especially with the approach you because in my opinion, you changed a little bit, and we have to say that Seduction: The Cruel Woman is a film you directed together with Elfie Mikesh, And your first singular directional film was The Virgin Machine in 1988. I wouldn't say it's comparable all through, because you kind of changed the perspective. It's much more involving, much more identification there. While Seduction of the Cruel Woman is very performative and very theater-like. How did it lead from Seduction to The Virgin Machine over 3 years?
Again, through personal experiences, because when Seduction came out in Germany, it was met with a lot of aggression, and I guess it also didn't play really well in the movie theaters. So we had more bad reviews than audience members in those days. And the same thing, well, later on, it's a reoccurring motive in my work, so that I'm not giving up, but just keep going. So when Seduction kind of bombed in Germany, I just, was looking to New York as a way of breaking out of this gray country. In those days, we still lived in the Cold War, and Germany was a very white society. So I just went to New York City and became an illegal alien there. And so
So you stayed over time?
well, if I would do this today, I'd be in a detention center right away. So, in those days, it was all pre 9/11. So America, the US was a totally different country back then. I was like a kid in the candy store. And Virgin Machine was kind of a very easy, straightforward story, like a coming out story. So I just needed to have a more free way to express myself in filmmaking. So it was also partly a documentary style. It was a mixture of scripted dialogue and then just taking the risk to work with real people, non-actors, and going, with the flow in those days.
Yeah, I realized it has a much rougher visual approach as well, probably due to the lower budget compared to the film before. And so what you call probably the documentary style, the improvisation in image composition and so on.
Well, actually, the budget of Seduction was also quite low. It doesn't look it, but we had problems, of course, in financing this film. It was, it fell through the first funding round by the Minister of the Interior in Germany, who in those days, was also the person who decided about film funding.
I see.
So we ended up having also a quite small budget. It was a little higher than for Virgin Machine, but not that much. But, we just had basically 2 locations, or actually 1 location in the harbor of Hamburg. So that made things much cheaper. We didn't have to move around. So we stayed put in one place.
Yeah, I think this stage-like things make it look bigger than it actually is. Then probably, despite the budget situation, and also we should mention that in Germany, Seduction was a banned film. It was a film on the index for many years, and it's I think it's over for at least 20 years now, but before that it was really hard to get hold of this film, and now it's well established for sure. And probably also in connection with all the other films, it was there was a better understanding of the whole concept of the different approaches to sexual identity in different films. Because I remember that around Gender Nuts in '99, when you brought out Gender Nuts, the film about transsexuality, it's at that time. Labels began to collect the films and to present them to a new audience, probably.
Right. Yeah. Where were we?
We were with the Virgin Machine, and
Okay.
I would say there is this film is filmed in New York, as you said, while
Virgin Machine was actually started out in Hamburg,
yep,
the first
sure,
part, and
yeah,
then
and then she moves to America.
moved to America to San Francisco.
That's the point I want to ask,
Mhm.
because I wondered, because a lot of your later films refer to San Francisco as this
Mhm.
utopian place where you could live out your sexual identities. Maybe we should talk about this. How was San Francisco at the time in the mid-late 80s, early 90s, which is so different till today? I know that you have a lot of experiences there.
Well, it was still like kind of a hippie town on one hand. So a lot of alternative people had moved to San Francisco or to the Bay Area
Hmm.
right before it was influenced so much by Silicon Valley and those terrible big data companies. So it was like a free zone for experimentation. And at the same time, it was also politically a very interesting place because the civil rights movement was quite strong, and the rights for the gay and lesbian community, as it was called back then,
Mhm.
was really strong. So it was a stronghold for alternative people in the city, in California in general, but the mecca for all the outsiders was San Francisco, right? Until the big change happened in the 0 years when Facebook and all the other big data companies moved to Silicon Valley, and then the whole situation changed and rents went up like crazy, and those wonderful people most of them could no longer afford to live in the area,
Mhm.
which I, talked about in the follow-up film of Jenna Nord's
Generation.
Generation. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I remember. That's true. Yeah, I heard that's interesting, because I had a long talk with Jack Fritcher in preparation of my book on the on my book on the film Cruising by William Friedkin, which covers the New York gay underground S&M scene. And Jack Fritcher was the editor of Drama magazine in the 70s, so he had a deep insight in that as well. And he's also very close with the San Francisco area still. And so it's quite interesting that a lot of those alternative sexuality, sexual identities were blooming at that time. And so you chose this entrance to with another film in 1991, which was called My Father is Coming, taking place in San Francisco. But now again, this film is even more lighter than the film before. I mean, you could say Virgin Machine is a kind of coming of age outing, and also a kind of ironic film in time at times. But My Father's Coming is a right of a comedy. How did this come about?
Well, My Father is Coming was entirely shot in New York and reflects on my experiences when I moved to New York as an illegal alien, pretty much. And so most of the people who are cast in the film are non-actors, are pretty much friends of mine. And I was just, thrown into it by my daily life experience in New York. So it might sound like a cliche, like the main character is an actress who can't find work and works in a restaurant as a waiter. It's almost a cliched existence, but I ran into these people every day, my daily life, and I became friends with pretty much everybody who is cast in the film, except for the two only actors. Alfred Edel, who plays the father, is a German, yeah, how can I say, like a character actor. He's been in Werner Herzog's films.
New German cinema
Mhm.
era films. Yeah.
Right. And he was also a friend. He's such a funny, he was such a funny character. And I just loved him as the character of the father. And the German actress who's out of work was played by Shelley Kestner, who I found in New York when she actually lived through the same experience. She tried to get auditions and she studied acting in New York. So I just snatched her away from the streets, and I was just trying to get my daily life experience out in a film and put it in a comedy style.
Mhm. So, compared to San Francisco, was there a principle and a difference in how the subcultures there developed, even at that time? Was it a different atmosphere?
Gee, you forced me back into the 80s and 90s.
Yes.
Yeah, so
We
this
want to
is
learn about
a
this.
cruel move here. Um, all right, so I'm trying to get into the time travel now. New York in those days. Yeah, it's hard. I mean, you can't really uh, yeah, see, there is a lot of differences between San Francisco and New York in those days. San Francisco is a much smaller city. It has
Hmm.
only 500,000 people.
Yeah.
It's easy to get around, or it was easy to get around in those days. New York was a tough place. It was stinky, it was loud, it was aggressive in some ways, and the subculture was also more rough in those days. Um, but we had many different places to go to, like the Pyramid Club. We had Les Qualitas, which was a fantastic nightclub for mostly for Latin people, but also open to everybody. It was a very mixed experience and mixed with a lot of artists and people from the sexual underground. So it was a wonderful melange of different um, circles and different groups. So, and in those days, the trans community also started to come together. Interestingly enough, uh, I got introduced to the trans community by the artist Annie Sprinkle, who had a salon every first Saturday in the month. She had trans men
Hmm.
mostly and their partners and friends coming
Hmm.
to her place in Manhattan to mingle and to party and to talk. And that was really fantastic. So, and I was lucky to experience all these different influential underground groups and artist groups. So,
Hmm.
and that, of course, influenced my filmmaking quite a bit.
back in that day, has there been a connection between all kinds of sexual identity groups, like the gay scene, the lesbian scene, the transsexual scene, and the BDSM culture, the fetish scene? Has this been connected mainly and intermingling, or has there already been kind of an identity separation idea?
That's hard to answer because I think there was both. We had the Wow Cafe, which was a cafe mostly for feminist lesbians. And that group didn't mingle that much, let's say, with artist groups in the Pyramid Club or other places. So there was still different groups, different locations attracted different groups, but the overall feeling was a feeling of solidarity between the different groups because pretty much every group was some kind of outsider.
Mhm.
So, and it was a friendly atmosphere for these people, that's for sure.
Mhm.
So, and that was a good coexistence, like a friendly coexistence, and sometimes there was an overlapping between the scenes.
Mhm. If you compare this with the idea that queer culture has today, when we mentioned the Teddy Award, queer cinema, the queer community, and so on, this is something which became really present, really big at the moment, or over the last 10 years, I would say it's really there. Even in mainstream culture, it's recognized. I would suppose that was not the case back then, and the groups were much smaller, much more focused on probably themselves or their own bubbles. And then, if you compare this broader idea of queer culture, was the term even used back then, or was it more focused on certain ideas?
I guess the term queer was coined a little later, I
Mhm.
guess in the early 90s. In the 80s in New York, the I call it the lesbian and gay community was very political,
Mhm.
especially through the AIDS crisis in those days. So
Yeah.
there was a lot of demonstrations, meetings, political activism against the politics, the health politics,
Mm.
and yeah, the marginalization of especially gay men in those days. And it became like a very interesting kind of that lesbians and gay men came to get closer together in this fight
Mhm.
against these repressive politics in those days.
So as political
Mm,
allies in a way.
absolutely, yeah.
Hmm.
So, and that was a very good way of, like supporting solidarity between these different groups.
Yeah.
It was a very political time, especially the 80s, because of the fights and I remember the gay parade in New York City was really, really touching. It was very different from like, gay parades today, which most of them are quite commercial now and these days. In those days, it was really touching. It was there was the parents of gay men were there, and it was a big solidarity and very
Mhm.
political. It was almost, yeah, it was really very emotional in those days as
Mhm.
well.
As you mentioned, the HIV crisis, which had a huge impact on the gay community for sure, because especially in the beginning of the 80s, it was obvious that something kills people, and it had to be understood step by step that this is a new kind of disease and how it is transmitted and so on. There has a lot of been a lot of political discussions, even really ill-fated discussions, as you know. Has that been a factor in the lesbian community at all?
I guess the lesbian community was less affected, but it was still like there was a lot of friendships going on, a lot
Yeah.
of ways of lesbians supporting their gay male friends. So the majority of the lesbian circles were really also involved in supporting ACT UP, for example, the political power especially in New York, it was very strong. There was a lot of lesbians and feminists, and it was also open for, people who were politically inclined and left-wingers to be involved in these fights, right?
Mm. I wonder how the feminist movement in the US was positioned in that situation, because if you research the feminist movement and its development, it's quite different, for example, to Germany. And in America, we have a kind of a right-wing feminism as well, which developed in a totally different direction. Was that involved in that at that time?
Mm, You're talking about the feminists who are also against pornography,
Yeah.
right? That's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Well, it's really hard to analyze this, I have to say. I don't know
All right.
whether I'm the right person to do that,
Mm.
because my friends or my circle was open-minded and on the experimenting side, and I would say, we're from liberal feminism.
All right.
So I wasn't really following the those anti-porn groups there. Of course, there was Andrea Dworkin and
Yeah, that's what I meant.
yeah.
That there is this tendencies which you mentioned in Germany as well, which protest against your film in the 80s. I could imagine that there were probably even places, political actions against those places of sexual freedom by other groups who saw it as threatening in a way.
Yeah, but I was just escaping from these
Yeah, sure.
places and so I wouldn't really
Yeah,
try to be anything like any close to those anti-porn
mm,
fractions or
sure.
groups. So I just saw them from afar and
Yeah,
tried to stay away.
all right. Yeah. There's another aspect which I find quite interesting, referring directly back to Seduction, the Cruel Woman, and the Sacher-Masoch, the book you wrote, which is Didn't Do It for Love, a film about an actress, Eva Norwind, which is really an exciting film to watch. As I remember, it's really a surprising film. Maybe you can talk a little bit how you discovered Eva Norwind and what led to this dealing with Eva Norwind becoming this very famous dominatrix in America then.
Ava was a force of nature, really. People had told me before I set foot in New York in 83 or so, German friends had told me already about Ava, and they said, "Oh, when you go to New York, you have to meet Ava Norwind." And I said, "Who is Ava Norwind?" And then we had a screening of Seduction, the Cruel Woman, and Ava's secretary called me and asked me for a press pass for Ava because she had very, very different multiple functions in those days. She was a film critic. She ran a bondage house in New York. She studied at New York University, so she was a very multiple personality. So then she appeared, and I just knew she is a dominatrix. So and then she appeared in like she was wearing some strange skirt and some messy pullover or something, and she didn't look at all like a famous dominatrix. And she was furious. She hated Seduction, the poor woman, and just came up to me and she was screaming at me and said, "This film is really terrible. You didn't get it. This is not at all a portrait of a dominatrix." And so we had like a bad first encounter, but in a way, I kind of fell for her. I thought she was such an interesting character, and I got to know her a little bit better. And then we became sort of friends, and she invited me to her parties where there was always no food, no music, no drinks, but really interesting people. And she made us go out and buy drinks and bring it out to her house. It was really interesting gatherings of all kinds of wonderful people. So then Eva also was traveling to film festivals. She came to the Toronto Film Festival where they showed my compilation of 4 short films, Female Misbehavior.
Yeah.
And that one she loved. And after the screening, she came up to me and she said, "Oh, Monika, I really want for you to make Female Misbehavior Part 2 about me." And in the meantime, I had some terrible experience with a small Hollywood studio. And I was really, deeply discouraged from making films, keep going. And Ava was then some kind of a new, wonderful way of keep going. So she brought me a big suitcase filled with hundreds of pictures, photographs, and she told me her amazing life story. And I thought, okay, this is it. I will make a film about Eva Norwind, which saved me actually in those days.
We're talking about these episode erotic films you participated in, the American
Yeah.
production?
Yeah.
All right. And,
Yeah. That was, a big mistake. So I was the same like a lot of other young European filmmakers in the 90s. I thought, oh, great, I got an offer from Los Angeles. And little did I know that this group of people was not into making movies for the, for the substance, for the fun, for the love for movies, but they just wanted to make fast, cheap money. Well, I spare you the details here.
all right.
It was just a really horrible experience. All in all, it was interesting, but it was, discouraging, really. I saw the ugly face behind the money makers in film. But Eva was just the contrary. We had almost no money to make this film, and we shot in Mexico City. We shot in Norway, where she is originally from, and we shot in New York. And it was really a wonderful ride to go with Ava and experience her crazy lifestyle.
I can imagine, and it shows in the film for sure. So, as in the beginning, I mentioned that some of your topics were already there from the beginning and reoccur. Would you actually handle BDSM in another new film, or would you say just if it comes up with a person I find it's interesting, or how do you relate to this topic today?
It's really, I can hardly say anything about this because with me, it's one project leads to the other, or my experiences with festivals or meeting people is just, leading me to the next idea or a project. So I never did that. I never made a plan or like a career plan, or, that's not the way I function. I just let myself lead my life, like here or there, and see what's happening.
Yeah, sure. Did you see Rosa von Braunheim's last film, which is called 30 Jahre an der Peitsche, 30 Years at the Whip? It's about a
Actually,
dominatrix.
I know of the film, but it actually had very little presence in the cinemas in
That's
here.
true, but it's on Arte.
Is it still
It's on
playing?
Arte TV. I think it's still there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I have to check it out.
I've seen it on the TV, not on the screen.
I see.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Because it's quite interesting. It's I mean, it's the portrait of a dominatrix with views of her life and her ideas about life, but also a portrait of her activities in a Berlin brothel, or not a brothel, but a dominatrix studio for sure. And so, there are similarities in a way, which come about with the topic, but maybe if you watch that, would be interested to talk about this again.
Right.
So I found very interesting to get some insight into this development of how the subcultures you experienced changed over the years, and probably all the cities you mentioned back then or you visited changed completely. And it wouldn't be possible to do the same films today, even with the same persons. Many of them are still around, fortunately, as you showed in, for example, in Generation, the second part of Gender Nauts. One remark, we did a long talk on the film The Night Porter. So this was a film connecting politics, sexuality, and BDSM in a way as early as in the 70s, also done by a queer or lesbian director in that sense, Liliana Cavani. So if you want to listen to this talk, it's on the German Blu-ray of The Night Porter. And also this talk here we did will be the basis of an article on the films we mentioned in a new book on BDSM on screen, which will be out on next year in 2027 on Pulse Books, which is a French publisher, but he publishes in French and in English. And this book will be co-written by Eugenio Ercolani and myself, in the same team as we did this cruising book on William Friedkin's Cruising, which also came up. So it's a lot of things connected with this. And I wish you all the best for new things coming. You had films about made in Taiwan, for example, a lot about transcultural phenomena. You made things which were much more political, and even some spiritual films like Ghosted, which is a mystery drama in a way, a love story. So a lot of things happening in your career besides the films we discussed. I want to mention that, just not to focus on this only. Is there anything you want to tell us? Any plans? Anything which is important now?
Yeah. We have a premiere coming up. I made a film in Taiwan last year. We shot it and we were editing it, and it will a world premiere at the festival in Warsaw in Poland called Millennium Dogs Against Gravity, a very political festival. And one of the main subjects this year is democracy. And the film is pretty much about elements of Taiwanese democracy and the vibrant queer community, which is in the forefront of fighting for democratic freedom in Taiwan.
What's the title?
It's called Cooking Up Democracy.
All right. Yeah. Okay. I see. Yeah. So let's watch out for this film. And thank you very much for being with us, Monika, and I hope to talk soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Marcus. Take care. Bye.